Stop making these mistakes in Stellar Blade right now. There are a ton of mistakes you can make early on in the game and some that you can't even come back from. If you make some of these mistakes, you'll not only get locked out of some parts of the game, but actually not be able to acquire certain items until you make it all the way to New Game Plus. I'm also going to give you some tips on how to make your character super powerful pretty early. Firstly, in Stellar Blade, your main missions are your priority missions. These will take you through a lot of the boss fights to fight the Alpha Natibas and overall level up your character, but there are a lot of important side quests, side missions, and storyboard missions that you're actually going to want to focus on completing over directly attacking the main storyline. A lot of the good rewards, such as some of the better exo spines, some of the better gear pieces, as well as some of the cooler cosmetic pieces are locked behind multiple different side quests and side missions that you need to complete in specific areas. Now, some of this content will actually be locked later on to you, so it's important that you focus on a lot of these first. For instance, when you reach the city of Zion, there are going to be a lot of different side quests that show up on your map once you unlock it. There are regular side missions that you can take on from NPCs. There are also these bounty board missions that are like typical fetch quests, but actually reward you with a lot of skill points, a lot of currency, and a lot of really good gear and armor pieces that you will find along the way. The side quests will take you in paths not directed necessarily by the main storyline, so it's really important to make sure you finish as many of these as possible before you continue on with the main storyline. Now, the next thing you need to make sure you are hunting and paying attention to are the loot robots that are scattered across the map. These loot robots drop you different upgrade modules that you need to progress your character, for upgrading your tumbler count so you can carry more potions, and other upgrades like drone modules so you can upgrade your drone, making your character more powerful. Now, these loot bots are scattered across the map in open and linear areas. The ones that show in blue will give you tumbler upgrade pieces, and the ones in yellow will give you drone upgrade pieces. Again, some of the areas you won't necessarily be able to return to immediately, so it's important you explore each area and are consistently using your scanner that your drone provides so that way you can spot these through the wall and be able to get them, because again, you can get locked out of certain areas at certain points in the campaign. Additionally, as you find these drone upgrade modules, once you unlock the ability to upgrade your drone, you can go in and select a bunch of different damage abilities, but towards the beginning, I highly recommend investing in the drone line on the very left. These are going to upgrade your drone scanning ability to help find a lot of these loot robots and loot in general much easier. Now, this storyline mistake could make or break your entire game depending on how you play. As I just mentioned, there are certain points of the storyline that you can actually lock yourself out of, which will allow you to essentially not return to specific areas to get certain gear and certain achievements. To give you an idea, once you reach the city of Zion, there are a bunch of different side quests as well as a main storyline that you can follow. If you continue to follow that main storyline before doing any of the side quest missions or exploring the town for different things you can find, as you begin to finish the Abyss Lavoir mission, you'll then be able to go and talk to your friend, and he will take you in his ship over to the next area. This is going to be the first lockout point in the story, which you'll have to continue and progress to New Game Plus in order to come back and unlock certain things if you missed it before you left the city of Zion. Additionally, after completing Spire 4, there's a second lockout point that will block off most all previous zones, meaning if you missed some content or some cans or armor or anything special in the game and you want to go back and unlock outfits or anything like that, you're not going to be able to. So it's important again that each area you go to, you complete everything you can before you hit these two main storyline points and complete them fully, because otherwise you may not be able to return until much later. Next is finding these corpses and not skipping them. As you progress through the game and use your drone scanner, you're going to see many humans scattered across the map. Some will just contain regular journal entries that will be added to your journal. Others that look like this will actually give you different cores that will increase some of your powers for your character. Some of these will include core power units and beta energy units. It's important to stay on the lookout for these and not to miss them because there are only so many in the game. The game has nooks and crannies for a reason. It's because a lot of these are typically hidden down separate pathways that if you're following the main storyline, you typically wouldn't go down. Over time, the more you collect of these, the stronger your character gets, the more health you have, the more beta energy you have, and there's always ways to get to them. You just have to figure out how. If you see one of these locked behind a door or locked behind a jail cell and you don't see any way to get to it, make sure you explore and figure out how to get in there. Maybe one of the biggest tips I can give you is to stay stocked on revives. Now, these revives will be available in the shop, and this is the WB pump. You can find these scattered throughout the game from different bosses, but you can also buy a limited quality again here in the campsite and different shops. Keep in mind there is a limited quality in most places, but this gives you the ability, if you die, to use an instant revive wherever you are. This is extremely useful in boss fights, and I've used plenty of them during boss fights so far. enough so that when you get a boss 2/3 of the way down on his health, if you do happen to die, this is a saving grace in almost every boss fight I've had so far. You can use your revive instantly, jump right back up, and finish the boss off without having to restart the fight all over again. It's saved me in many occasions, so make sure you always have some available. Next are some very essential combat tips. The combat in Stellar Blade primarily revolves around parrying and dodging attacks while also using your beta energy attacks. Firstly, it's important to invest in your parrying skills very early because parrying in boss fights is almost essential. When an enemy attacks you by pressing block right as the enemy's going to hit you, you will parry them, stagger them for a quick second, and each perfect parry results in one less bar of balance for that enemy. To give you an example, the yellow icons above the enemy's head are the enemy's balance, and each time you parry them, one of those will be deducted. Once they reach 0, they'll essentially be stunned or staggered, and you'll be able to perform a retribution attack, which will finish off most every enemy, but is important because it will do a large amount of damage to bosses, which is why parrying is so important. Now, additionally, enemies will have combo attacks, and they'll glow red upon attempting a combo attack, telling you, hey, you need to get ready to parry or perfect parry a couple times in a row. Whether a regular enemy or a boss, this gives you a very good heads up as to what they're about to do so you can know you need to parry multiple times in a row. Again, this can break the enemy's balance very quickly, allowing you to get some very easy kills. You also want to make sure you understand how to dodge properly. Dodging properly is not just hitting the circle button. There's essentially a perfect dodge, which is required in some unblockable attacks by enemies. Otherwise, they will hit you with these unblockable attacks every single time. Attacks that shine blue means you should dodge towards the enemy if possible, and purple attacks mean that you should dodge away from the enemy. There's a full set of skills you can upgrade for double dodge and making perfect dodge easier, as well as making your perfect parry easy. I recommend early on investing highly into your perfect parry ability, so that way for bosses early on in the game, you're able to deal much more meaningful damage to bosses using your perfect parry effectively. You also want to make sure you're using your combos effectively, especially your higher level combos such as Incursion 4 and Onslaught 4. Not only do you hit the enemy more times, causing more damage, so keeping in at least those two combos specifically, you can take out most enemies in the game with those while using your perfect dodge and perfect parry abilities. And additionally, your beta powers are important. One in particular early would be Shield Breaker. That's very useful. This is going to help break your enemy's shield. And the way shield works in Stellar Blade is shield gives the enemy or you or whoever has shield damage reduction. So if you're attacking an enemy and they still have shield, they're going to reduce all of the damage that you give them. And the more damage you do to their shield to deplete it, the more damage you're going to be doing to their actual health. Shield Breaker is a good beta skill because it allows you, especially with bosses, to break their shield very quickly and start dealing direct HP damage to them. Again, reducing the damage reduction bonus they get from having shield itself. Make sure to time Shield Breaker properly so that way you can actually charge the ability and break a lot more shield than normal. And the last combat mistake you don't want to make early on is not investing in Assault and not investing in the ambush skill. Both of these are absolutely needed, and it will save you a ton of time, especially early. This allows you to one-shot every enemy in the game. Assault being if you jump down on top of an enemy and hit triangle, you'll basically kill them in one shot. And the same goes for ambush. So if you walk up to an enemy while not in combat, you can hit triangle and execute that enemy from behind, essentially one-shotting them. And this can save you a bunch of time and HP, especially early on in the game when you can get very easy kills this way. You want to make sure you're paying attention in Zion to get all of your collectibles and again complete all of your side missions. The bonuses you get from completing all of this stuff is very useful in making your character more powerful and getting your character more gear and mostly a lot more resources. By getting a lot of resources, you can upgrade a lot of different armor sets and a lot of different gear pieces so that way you can swap and alternate between them if you're going into, let's say, a harder boss fight or just zooming across the map trying to do as much damage as you can. Additionally, you want to pay attention to cans specifically. Before you leave the Zion area, you want to make sure you hit as many of these vending machines and basically explore as many areas as possible because finding cans in the game gives you a lot of special benefits. In Zion, there are vending machines scattered across the city. Make sure you check out each one because each one essentially gives you a chance to get one of these collectibles. They're also just scattered across the city and across the ground in different areas, even within the wasteland and other portions of the entire map. They go throughout the campaign. These cans give you passive bonuses like you can see here and can make you more powerful over time. The more cans you find and collect, the more of these bonuses you qualify for and get automatically. So making sure you check out any vending machine every time you come across one in the entire game can definitely be worth it. You also want to pay attention to vendors and affinity. Different vendors such as the Junk Sister shop or the one that's next to the bounty board have different affinity levels. At level 1 affinity, they offer certain gear, and as you continue to buy from them, it essentially levels up their affinity level. The higher affinity level they go, the more gear that gets unlocked in the shop itself. And for example, a vendor like the one next to the bounty board has outfits for Eve already for sale. If you buy some of those and some of the other items in the shop, her affinity level as it goes to 2 and 3 will unlock more and more gear, such as different outfits. And some of the cooler outfits are actually unlocked via level 2 or 3 affinity from that vendor. So make sure you go ahead and buy some things from them to unlock the level 2 or level 3 gear to see if it's something you want, because again, later on in the game, it's going to be much harder, if not impossible in some cases, to come back and actually unlock these pieces. Now, and finally, the last mistake is at each campsite in multiple places throughout the map, there are going to be phone booths scattered throughout all of these areas, as well included in the city of Zion and later in the game. Make sure if you see one of these phone booths, you walk up to it and click on it to actually activate it, so that way you activate a fast travel point, so that way you can find as many of those as possible, making traveling across lots of sections of the map. There are also chairs, couches, and other things scattered throughout the map that are similar to the campsite chairs, where if you sit on them, they'll actually restore a lot of your HP, but not actually cause monsters to respawn. Make sure you're taking advantage of your campsites by not only upgrading your gear consistently, refilling all of your potions from your shop consistently, but also making sure you sit each time you come to a new one so you replenish all of your tumblers. If this video helped you, drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'll be showing you a lot more Stellar Blade here in the next coming days. That being said, thank you guys.